Both drivers, the driver and also of the motor vehicle, a number of other business area at the time of the investigation.
She's walked up the steps and along the corridors of City Hall thousands of times as a councillor. This was her first as Lord Mayor. Nuwatali Nelms is only the second female to take the city's top job after trailblazer Joy Cummings in 1974.
In terms of women in local government, she's like the Gough Whitlam for all of us here in Newcastle. I know that not just me, but many of my colleagues, male colleagues as well, have always admired what Joy did.
The poll will be formally declared on Wednesday, but figures have already revealed 5,000 voted informally. 27,500 people didn't vote at all. That's almost a third of those enrolled, suggesting voter fatigue. Ms Nelms was hoping to stop a fourth Hunter by-election, this one for her councillor position.
I will be writing to the Minister for Local Government and asking him to reconsider the section of the Act that is going to force people back to the polls.
But the Minister says the Act doesn't allow him to dispense with a by-election where the vacancy occurs more than 18 months prior to the next council poll. And on a lighter note, while we've had lady mayoresses, what will the new boss's husband be known as?
I am actually a Lord Mayor, even though I am clearly a woman, and I'm assuming Stuart is at work today on an industrial site in Kooragang Island, and I would imagine they're having a field day with calling him a lady mayoress.
Perhaps first bloke might be more palatable. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
Red look at AGL's Walk Ivory project. Media got the chance to observe one of the CSG wells today, the third of 4 to be fractured and tested for gas.
We'll be finishing the program up in about another week and a half, near the end of November. All the equipment we see on site here will be off location, being finished up. First process, which is the fracking process.
Once that's complete, water will be removed from the coal seams before gas is extracted. The results of the process will be known by March. AGL stands by the safety of its work to date, saying data received from groundwatering, as well as sound technology called geophones, confirms there's no environmental impact.
Our geomic model will provide us on what they were going to do is actually going to happen subsurface. It's basically told us everything is looking quite good.
Members of the community aren't convinced the project is safe or necessary.
There's a whole lot of misconceptions going on. I don't think AGL are anywhere near under what they're doing down here as far as the geology goes and the water goes.
There are a range of processes that have yet to wind up, and until those have wound up, we won't have full action. And to push ahead with a very controversial and potentially environmentally risky process at this stage, I think is premature.
Renee Feder, NBN News.
Built in the US in 1957, Locomotive 5917 is a rail veteran and last night was given the historic task of hauling what could be the last steam passenger service into Newcastle Station. Organised by Lachlan Valley Railway volunteers, the 59 class engine joined former government Loco 3237 to celebrate 85 years of the Express Newcastle-Sydney service. Several hundred people turned out to witness the event. Passengers and steam buffs jostling captured the moment. Bruce given a rock-star reception at the station. Unsurprisingly, the state government's plans to cut the rail line at Wickham are unpopular among this crowd. A simple message in chalk summed up the last trip, while for driver Peter Lower it was an emotional time.
Pretty sad, yeah, pretty sad. I mean, it's just a complete injustice to everyone. It should never happen. So, yeah, we've got to go because we've got raiders. Okay. Yeah, this is the last time it's happened. All over. What a shame.
And on that note, the train steamed into the suburban night. The fight to save the line hasn't run out of steam even as the Boxing Day deadline looms. Regardless of what happens, volunteers have provided a memorable night marking a century and a half of steam locomotives in Newcastle.
Earlier this year, Peter Skinner noticed his health deteriorating.
My memory went to billy-o, and that's what the other doctor said. It was dementia coming on, but it wasn't.
He had a bit of tremor in his hands, and in general, I knew something was just wrong.
The 72-year-old was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. It's a condition Peter and Judy admit they knew little about, especially the full scope of symptoms.
And this ranges from things such as depression, anxiety, to pain, to problems with the sleep.
Professor Ray Chadri was among a delegation of world-renowned experts to visit Newcastle over the weekend for an Australian-first conference on the disease.
The research moves on, change happens every year, and it's important to keep up to date and for all the team to keep up to date.
There's still no known cause and therefore no cure, but there is hope.
What we do now, better than what we used to do 20 years back, is we treat the symptoms very effectively.
And as advancements are made, the puzzle is slowly becoming clearer.
When we are able to put all those pieces together, then we'll know what's actually causing the conditions.
Amanda Douglas, NBN News.
He doesn't have all the answers, but he's not going anywhere. Phil Stubbins says he has the support of club bosses despite the side's woeful start to the season.
We haven't been successful here for, this is fifth year going on now, so to say solve it in 6 weeks, Phil, away you go. I think it's a bit of a false hope, really.
The 4-0 thumping at the hands of the Raw took a toll on the faithful, and the usually upbeat coach.
And I think trying to go out and win the game was possibly a mistake for myself. We can't keep patting ourselves on the back and saying that things are all okay when they're not.
Letting his assistant take charge at today's training session, Phil Stubbins has a lot to think about before Saturday's clash with the also winless Wanderers.
We've not really had much balance. We've really lacked the chemistry that players get from playing together time after time, and to have a back four that hasn't played 2 consecutive games together in a very strong competition is obviously an area where a good side could possibly exploit.
With some of those troops finally back in the fold, Stubbins is promising a fresher, more vibrant performance come Saturday, all while asking fans to be patient.
I believe in the group and I believe in where we're going. I also believe it'll take some time.
Kate Haberfield, NBN News.
Home from school, and what a day it's been.
They got into the car and they went, "Oh, we've had such a good day, such a good day." Isn't that true?
2 years after the bid to get them here began, 19-year-old Princess Swa and her 5 siblings are calling Newcastle home. It's all because of their grandmother, who worked tirelessly to save them from a life of poverty in Liberia.
Because I'm happy.
The children were orphaned when their mother died of cancer in 2011. Their father vanished, presumed murdered.
Life was very hard. Now life is okay.
Refugee advocate Sister Di helped Dysata raise the $40,000 needed to bring the children to Australia. But when the Ebola virus hit West Africa, they feared the worst.
What I was scared of is that the process had taken more than 2 years up until there. And with Ebola, these kids could have died.
Thankfully, the family managed to get out with a clean bill of health. Now their focus is the future and the community that has made it all possible.
Thank you. They helped me a lot. They've made me happy.
Amanda Douglas, NBN News.
The December 26 deadline is looming, but the bid to halt the process is gaining strength. With the Labor Party now holding all three levels of government in Newcastle, unions have come on board, along with their 63,000 Hunter members, and they're threatening industrial action.
It's not often that you get $500 million in your region. We want to make sure that it's spent in a way that gives our children a future.
The Trades Hall Council wants to see light rail run on the existing tracks, preventing 2 years of construction work along Hunter Street.
There's a lot of businesses in this region that have just been given money to start up. Whether they can outlast years is a question that hopefully never need to be answered.
There could be more trouble along Hunter Street when the new university campus is up and running with just 5 car spaces allocated. Roads and Maritime Services has delivered a scathing review of the plans, saying there's no justification to support an assumption that most students and staff live within 2 kilometres of the campus. Visiting former Pittsburgh Mayor Tom Murphy oversaw his city's transition from a steel city to an entrepreneurial hub. He says it's the uni that holds the key to helping Newcastle move past steel and coal.
How your city builds that culture of the university grows the talent, and how you as a community then build a structure to make it easy for that young woman who has a great idea to start a company.
Kate Haberfield, NBN News.
It's also more about ensuring that we provide good customer service so that people don't want to use those sorts of services.
People who donate to us can put special messages on stars, hang them on the tree, and on Christmas Day we can give them out to people who join us for lunch at Christmas Lunch in the Park.
It brings new meaning to the term baby weight. Every week, these mothers meet at Mums Empowered Studios in Merriweather to work out, and they bring their little ones along. Here, the focus is not on losing weight, but the psychological benefits of exercise.
There's always so much focus and based upon the way a mother looks after giving birth, whereby we need to be talking more about how she feels. So her ability to cope with the emotional and physical changes as well as huge lifestyle changes.
It's something founder Emma Thompson is an advocate for. She suffered severe depression and anxiety before regular exercise played a role in her recovery. This week marks Postnatal Depression Week, a condition Mums Empowered is working hard to raise awareness of, while creating a support network that promotes me time.
Parenting is difficult, and that there's absolutely no shame in being able to admit that maybe you're not having such a good day and that there is actually help available in the community.
I was pregnant with this one and was just feeling a bit low, I think, and I thought if I come to some exercise, make me a bit happier, and it does.
Also really helped me adjust to the lifestyle changes of motherhood, and it's a fun place to be with other mums, and you know your baby's being looked after and they have a great time as well.
Emma has also released an e-book helping mum work out at home. This month, $5 from every book sold will go to the Post and Antenatal Depression Association. Emma Murphy, NBN News.
Newcastle alive with the sound of music. But this is no stage production, it's keys to the city. And it's all about tinkling the ivories on the street, an idea borrowed from New York.
Newcastle being a fabulous creative city that it is, I thought pianos through the city. Why not? Let's do it.
With a little help from Chopin, Bach and the professionals, the idea was brought to life today.
So what I do, I work on the piano and I translate it to the instrument. So that's going to go to harp.
I'm a piano teacher, so I'd love it if more people played piano. Definitely. I think music is a wonderful thing to be part of.
The pianos will now be spread throughout the city, each named after the person who donated it. Whether you're an amateur or more experienced, it's all about having a go, and organisers hope the people of Newcastle will embrace this musical idea.
we're going to keep finding new locations so that more and more people can get to know them, to pass by them on their morning walk or their evening stroll, and they become part of the furniture of Newcastle.
Vivian von Drainen, NBN News.
Daniel Aman's looking to hammer it home on a night where the hits keep coming.
I guess it's like 2020 cricket, anything could happen. Standing upright 1 minute and down the next.
The Super 8 Trends Tasman tournament will see some top cruiserweights go head-to-head with a winner-take-all prize purse of $150,000, all on one night.
It's just a challenge. It's something very different. I'm sort of a little bit, I am worried about it, but I'm very excited about it as well. Basically, I only usually fight the once on a night, 10, 12 rounds, and this time I've got to fight 3 times to win it.
Aman has 259 rounds of pro boxing under his belt and admits he'll need to change his style for the Auckland Slugfest.
Being very active and a lot of punch output, and not necessarily looking for those big ones, but just throwing a lot of punches and being very aggressive.
He is probably the most experienced one, and he's also the most active out of everyone, so this is playing right into our hands.
The two-time Australian cruiserweight champion has lost his only 2 fights in 2014 against Tony Conquest in London and Mark Flanagan in Townsville. This is a chance to finish the year on a high.
I've struggled all throughout the year, so this would take a lot of pressure off end of the year winning this.
Michael Kane, NBN News. In only her 4th year of competing, Rhonda Livingston nearly took out one of body shaping's biggest prizes, crowned runner-up in Miss Olympia's bikini category.
It was an amazing moment to place over there. I went over expecting basically to place it all.
Despite going into the contest as the reigning Australian champion, she didn't give herself much hope of winning the title.
I honestly went over there expecting to get my butt kicked. So yeah, like I said, to get the silver was absolutely mind-blowing. I didn't expect it.
Training every day of the week in the lead-up to the competition proved a tough test for the 46-year-old.
Keep my nutrition as good as I can, keep eating as much as I can to fuel myself, and yeah, just train as hard as I can. The last 2 weeks are where you almost feel like you want to give up, and the last week is really hard.
She's now focused on next year's world titles in Dubai before looking to go one better in next year's Olympia event held in Las Vegas.
I'm not coming home unless there is a gold medal.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
A cardboard box covers the offensive object. Only discovered today, the mosque's security cameras captured 2 men hurling the rotting pig's head into the sacred grounds just after 10 p.m. on Monday.
It's a show of hatred. That's the part that hurts. It's not the actual action, but it's the fact that doing this to hurt us, and that's not acceptable.
Police today interviewed neighbours and set up a crime scene.
The behaviour is unacceptable. It does nothing to nurture good relationships in our community, and we are hell-bent on making sure that we bring those responsible before the court.
The Newcastle Muslim Association believes it's a targeted act of aggression.
I think because there's a misconception that if a pig's head or the animal, the pig, is thrown in, or a dead pig is put onto the property of a place of worship of a mosque, that will desecrate that place and we won't be able to pray there, but actually it's a misconception.
It's the second time in less than a week that Newcastle's Muslim community has come under attack. Last Thursday night, a 47-year-old man was leaving evening prayers at the mosque here when he was set upon by a group of 3 men who swore at him before punching him in the chest and pulling his hair.
There's potential that this is a bias-motivated crime, but we can't rule anything in or out until our investigation tells us exactly what the motivations were.
It's sad these things are occurring, but I mean, we've still got hope in a wider community, and we've still got hope.
Madeline McKell, NBN News.
We know our local ABC people are all worried what will happen between now and Christmas, but they won't escape. They can't escape from 500 job losses.
It was a decision that would prove life-changing. After enrolling in the Australian Bone Marrow Donor Registry around 10 years ago, leading aircraftman Bernard Smith from Williamtown RAF Base recently received word he's a match for someone fighting for survival.
I was actually a 10 out of 10 match, which is almost like a blood relative, so it was a pretty good match. So the higher the chances are of success.
While the diesel mechanic still doesn't know who he's helped, he's picked up clues it could be a young boy, and he hopes to meet him in the future.
I did donate some teddy bears, like defensive bears, and the lady from the bone marrow donation place, she said, yeah, it's pretty appropriate considering the patient's age, so I'm hoping that it'll be nice to know that they've got a whole life to lead ahead of now that they've had the donation.
The donation procedure required Bernard to stay in hospital for just a few hours, and he says the pain wasn't too bad, considering he was giving the gift of life.
It was minimal discomfort. I was able to ride my motorbike the next day, so it's nothing at all.
Emma Murphy, NBN News.
No comment. What would I prefer? I'd like to play more centrally. He's got the last say on that, but I just feel like I'm better used up front. I'm a goal scorer.
Kibo was on the cusp of sporting immortality.
He just loves to chase, and his temperament is just unbelievable.
He's set to run in the world's richest greyhound race, the $420,000 Melbourne Cup at Sandown.
It's massive, isn't it? The biggest race in the world. Just to have a runner in the race is a huge thrill, and it's going to be an exciting night.
Kibo was born in owner Kellean's East Maitland backyard. Never in his wildest dreams did he think the pup would go on to amass $343,000 in prize money. A win in the big one will see Kibo's total earnings jump to more than $750,000, an Australian greyhound record.
That's pretty incredible, but I really haven't thought about it too much. I'll try not to think about it too much.
He's set to race for another 12 months before heading back to where it all began.
I'd love to see him come home in the backyard and become a family pet like the mother did. And yeah, he's got a home for life, and he'll probably get the best of everything.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
Vicious and disturbing. 28-year-old Matthew McAllister can be seen punching and kicking a 44-year-old bus driver while horrified passengers watch on, pleading for the attack to end. But police claim it didn't end there. They allege another fight broke out when witnesses tried to stop McAllister while waiting for officers to arrive.
This particular male offender was confronted in a nearby park. At the time, he was covered in blood and holding a knife. The arrest took place at gunpoint, whereby the offender failed to comply with police directions. Ultimately, a standoff occurred, and eventually he did put down the knife and was arrested.
A picture of the knife was presented to Raymond Terrace Local Court this afternoon, where McAllister appeared on a range of charges. He pleaded guilty to those relating to the attack on the bus driver, but not guilty to resisting arrest, assaulting police and threatening officers. McAllister's defence lawyer said his client claimed little recollection of the violent assault because he was under the influence of alcohol. He also said his client could not explain his actions other than to say he had become depressed after learning that his unborn child had a heart condition and would require surgery after being born. Bail was denied. Madeline McKell, NBN News.
He's one of Newcastle's favourite sons and a superstar in the music world, selling 6 million albums with Silverchair. Today, wearing dark glasses and flanked by his lawyer, a remorseful Daniel Johns pleaded guilty in Newcastle court to driving on the evening of October 28.
I just made a mistake today, regret, and luckily no one got hurt, and definitely won't do it again.
Johns had been driving his black Jaguar about 20 kilometres over the speed limit along Morgan Street in the suburb of Merriweather. He was pulled over in Charlotte Street and recorded a mid-range blood alcohol reading of 0.126. He had one passenger in his car. According to police, Johns told officers that he'd consumed 4 large glasses of white wine in 3 hours. He finished his last glass just 10 minutes before he was pulled over. Officers noted his eyes were watery, bloodshot, and that he smelt of liquor. Magistrate David Day today said Johns' driving record was causing some problems and ordered he undergo the traffic offenders program while making no promises he'd escape a conviction. 20 years ago, Johns and his bandmates rose to international fame as teenagers, going on to make 5 hit albums. But life for him hasn't always been easy, with high-profile battles with depression, anorexia nervosa and reactive arthritis. He recently posted on Instagram that he returned to the recording studio with a top Australian producer. The 35-year-old is due back in court on February 26. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
It was the latest sickening chapter in a spate of incidents targeting the local Muslim community. Police were this morning following several leads in the hope of identifying who threw a rotting pig's head into the grounds of the mosque. Despite the discovery, the community pressed on with plans to help launch the Wesley Christmas Tree Carnival.
Because we've done a lot of things with the community, with the Uniting Church, we've made a lot of friends in this church as well, and we're happy to be there to support this event.
The decorated Christmas trees help raise funds for Wesley Church-run charities. Last year alone, they raised more than $5,000. Minister Smith says the two communities coming together for the event couldn't have come at a better time.
I think at times when minorities are persecuted and victimised in countries, it's good for people of good faith to get together and to do things together and to work in cooperation.
We've had an ongoing relationship with Reverend Neil Smith and the Uniting Church before these events, so I think it just strengthens bonds between the two communities, and it's that we're interested in doing.
The Christmas tree display is on at the Hamilton Wesley Uniting Church on Beaumont Street for the next 4 weeks.
The diehards gathered early, lining up ready for their first dip in the baths in 9 months. Then bang on 9 a.m. as the lifeguard clocked on, the baths opened. And it seems the wait was definitely worth it.
Look, it's fabulous. It's 10 out of 10. I was one of the last swimmers before it closed to have had a swim, and I'm probably one of the first as well. I came down at 7:30 this morning.
Among the first swimmers to test out the changes, 2 gentlemen who have a special affinity with the baths, 94-year-old Warren Armstrong and 84-year-old David Hogg.
I was here for the first opening on the 9th of November 1935.
We were both here.
We were both here.
I think it's a credit to them. The pool itself is beautiful, water's great, money well spent.
But how they did it for $4 million, I don't know.
New timber bench seats and starting blocks, as well as access ramps and railings, all obvious additions above the surface. But there are also new pumps and plenty of changes beneath.
We have completely recoated the inside of the bar, so it's now an epoxy finish, which is much easier to clean.
As for the water, it was crystal clear and a lovely 19 to 20 degrees, but that didn't seem to matter.
I don't even know what the temperature is. I think it was really not even important. It was just a matter of being back in the water here in Mayweather.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
Art house films, European films. There's definitely a call for it, as can be seen by the festivals that come through the Tower Cinemas throughout the year. There are other festivals other than the Italian Film Festival, and they're always well patronised.
Final preparations for the reigning champions.
We've lost a couple of guys, but Newcastle always had pretty strong depth. So I'd like to think we're a good chance anyway.
The Newcastle rep side left for Ballina today for the 3-day carnival, which will see it take on Central Coast, Central North and North Coast, with the winner advancing to the state final on December 7. The captain hopes his team can get on the front foot early.
It makes it a tough carnival if you lose that first one. You're sort of you're battling. You really can't afford to lose any games. So the start will be key. And even that first hour just sort of sets the tone.
After only recently making his first-grade debut for Merriweather, 19-year-old leg spinner Courtney Moulton has been given a big chance by Newcastle electors.
It's fantastic, just a great opportunity to progress my cricket as I'm still young, and hopefully I can get a career from it.
What I've seen, he looks really good and really promising. So it's always, attacking moves, have a good young leg in the side. So looking forward to see how he goes.
In the Newcastle District Comp this weekend, the Tigers are at home to Newcastle City, West face the Premiers, Stockton takes on Waratah, Belmont hosts Charlestown, Cardiff plays the Students, and Hamwicks meet Toronto. Michael Kane, NBN News. Last Saturday's late goal against Canberra proved more than just a point.
It was very important, I think, not just because we got a point, but to stop Canberra getting those extra 2 points, keeps them a bit lower on the table.
The 3-3 draw keeps the Jets in touch with the W League's top 4 with only 3 rounds remaining. Going into every match believing they can win has been their mantra.
We don't have anything to fear. People have to fear us this season because we can be the ones to beat them.
This weekend they'll take on the Victory in Melbourne, and the Jets are hoping to produce something similar to their first round boil-over. The key will be keeping their star-studded outfit quiet.
Yeah, we've got a few things up our sleeves that we can try and stop Melbourne doing, attacking. They've got Lisa Devanna, great player, fast. It's going to be hard to stop her, but we'll try everything we can and hopefully get a win.
Tara Andrews is also looking forward to going up against former Jets Hannah Brewer and Gemma Simon.
Always going up against your friends is hard. You don't want to hurt them, but then you just want to beat them.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
Side by side, two of the city's newest representatives, Lord Mayor Nuatali Nelms and Labor MP Tim Crackenthorpe, front and centre as a special state parliamentary planning inquiry returned to Newcastle. Before a packed pub gallery, Lord Mayor stressed a need for serious planning reform. While conversation became heated when Mr Crackenthorpe was forced to defend an alleged conflict of interest over land at Wickham owned by his wife's parents. Greens councillor Therese Doyle also took aim, calling for a full inquiry into the dealings of Newcastle Council. The Parliamentary Committee is due to hand down its report on March 5. Amanda Douglas, NBN News.
It's not on, and certainly from a New South Wales Police Force perspective, we'll use all available resources to identify them as we have on the last two occasions and to put them before the courts.
Because our mother had melanoma, we were very conscious of it, and we regularly get skin checks, and they've both had melanomas again this year and been okay because they got it early.
After a performance to forget, Jets coach Phil Stubbins has decided to lay the boot in. The cards have been reshuffled for his side's clash with the Wanderers tomorrow and in a search for a clean sheet.
I can publicly say that now that Ben Kennedy will get a start this week. He'll play between the sticks.
He's even looked outside the senior squad, promoting Nick Calburn from the club's youth side.
More than anything, it's a statement to everyone at the club that if you're good enough, it doesn't matter how old you are.
Scott Neville will return to right back after recovering from a groin injury, and he's raring to go.
We've got to turn up and actually show to the fans and our supporters that we're willing to work hard for the badge and for the shirt.
Q Yulins will partner Adrian Madashi in the centre of defence, while Sam Galloway will slot into the left-hand side. Marcos Flores played no part last week, but it was confirmed today he and fellow South American Geronimo Newman will feature more prominently against the Asian champions. Andrew Houle returns from Olyrood duty, and he's hoping Westerns in his midweek draw with the Mariners will work in his side's favour.
It's always tough down there. They've got a good fan base and, a good squad there, so they've had some bad results, so they'll be looking for a win as well.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
It's clear Occy is glad to be home, and it's after one epic journey. The feeling is shared by his owner Philippa after learning her 2-year-old Staffy Cross had run off during a storm while she was on holidays. Much to her relief and surprise, she received a call that he'd been found.
So I asked her if she could take him to our local vet in Hamilton, and she was a bit confused, and I was a bit confused, and I asked where she was, and she said he was in Auburn. And I didn't know what to really say at that. I was just trying to think, oh my God, he's okay, but how did he get to Auburn?
Occy somehow made the 150-kilometre trek from his home at Georgetown. He was found 2 days later at a train station.
Whether he's followed the train tracks down, whether he hopped on a train for a little part of the way, or whether he's just run as much as he could through the day and the night. It's funny because nobody knows except for him.
After a couple of days' rest and a good bath, Occy has since been on the mend.
His paws have started to heal now, so nothing serious. So he's just really, really lucky, and we're really lucky that he was able to come home.
As for whether he'll be sticking around,
I'd say he's definitely been spoilt. He probably won't be running off hopefully anytime soon again.
Renee Feder, NBN News. After 9 months of renovations, the new Merryweather bars are making a splash. For Winter Swim Club, the Mackerels, it's been a long time between dips.
Well, I actually had a member this morning saying he can't wait for winter.
The $4 million overhaul has breathed new life into the historic swimming spot, but as for Merryweather's iconic pavilion, age remains a burden.
It would be good to have a decent-sized community room and a decent-sized club room that we can securely store our belongings in.
Plans to completely rebuild the pavilion fell flat earlier this year when the federal government pulled a $1 million grant.
Council actually had a fantastic plan to have that all public open space and all the change rooms and facilities underneath the hill.
Instead, council relying on private enterprise to come up with the next big idea and the money. Expressions of interest have been sought for both Newcastle and Merryweather pavilions.
We're going through those expressions of interest within council at the moment.
A recommendation is expected to be put to council early next year. Amanda Douglas, NBN News.
We first met Jai Parker just 11 days after he lost his left arm in a cellar explosion at Bar Beach. On October 11, a Friday night at the Bar Beach Bowling Club became nothing short of a nightmare when a blast forced an emergency exit of the venue and left Jai in a serious condition. Now 5 weeks on, he says community support is keeping him going.
Yeah, well, it's overwhelming. I mean, the support just keeps coming.
The 23-year-old says he's focusing on getting out and about with mates and enjoying life. His recovery is moving along slowly and he's had fittings for a prosthetic arm.
Still getting them moulded, but yeah, that's just a slow, steady process, I suppose.
Today, grommets from around the state turned out to put on a show for Jai at the Bar Beach versus Bondi Beach skate comp. Organiser Amanda McKenzie says Jai's plight is close to their hearts.
Because we are Bar Beach Bowl and Bar Beach Bowl Club, it's a community-focused event and it is close to home for all of us here.
All funds raised today will go towards Jai's recovery.
All proceeds from all the, sausage sizzle today, drinks sold, will all be going towards Jai as well.
Georgina Smythe, NBN News.
Getting up in a helicopter and landing on a ship and coming was an experience, and I tried really well to capture that. And if you look around the show, you'll see snippets here and there of things that we just walk past.
Very generous person in her life, not a mean bone in her body.
There's been a lot of interest in the property, so we're really excited to be taking it to auction.
It might be only November, but the Knights are already getting down to business.
Sessions like this morning with the club section are great because it brings everyone together and you get that feel across the board.
It's his busiest time of the year as Collins Sanctuary puts players through their paces before drawing up programs.
As we drop after Christmas, it starts getting more specific, gets towards that punchy end of when the games start, and we start trying to sharpen it all down a little bit.
After recently heading the high-performance unit of the Knights junior system, Sanctuary is now in control of the seniors, implementing a mix of speed and strength, as well as some ball work thrown in for good measure.
A lot of my work is about work off the turn, work getting off the floor, working with the ball, a little bit of sharp footwork into accelerations. So when we can, we do try and get the ball involved because, in the small side games we've been doing this morning, so, another aspect there.
Years of experience with English Super League club Wakefield has served him well, but there's a noticeable gap between both countries.
The difference in the intensity of the sessions was just so marked. So having worked in Super League, and you sort of wonder what the differences are, and you come out here and you sort of see it in its black and white terms, and you just suddenly realise that the weather, the environment, it just helped the whole process.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
Donella got away, 2.5 Chicken Estacada. Then came Tebow up to third, the favourite. On the inside there was Above All Railing. Then came Newclyn Velk, then Awesome Project, well back Cosmic Wise and Star Recall. But down the back it's Dinah Villa, the leader. About 3 Chicken Estacada. Then the favourite Tebow. But around the corner, Dinah Villa wins the Tab Melbourne Cup. Chicken Estacada second, Tebow third. Fourth's a photo, Cosmic Wise are Above All. Then came Awesome Project.
As to why they've come together as they have, we're still investigating the cause of it and haven't been able to establish what has actually occurred.
A tracation trial run. Track work forced people off trains and onto buses this weekend between Broadmeadow and Newcastle. At Hamilton, where the rail line will be cut on Boxing Day, one word dominated discussions.
Today it's been inconvenient. It's consistently inconvenient. Right now it's really inconvenient because I'm going to be an hour.
At this week's Newcastle Council meeting, the Greens will introduce a motion asking that Council seek an urgent briefing from the state government on the bus system that will temporarily replace the trains. While work has begun at Hamilton Station, Councillor Therese Doyle argues Council hasn't been given enough information to be reassured about pedestrian safety and traffic.
I've asked for a briefing and that, unfortunately, I'm told, can't happen till early December.
She estimates there'll be around 300 extra bus movements per day along busy Beaumont Street come January.
There are 179 train movements, so there has to be at least one bus for every train. That's the commitment from government. But for many of them, there will be 2 buses.
Transport for New South Wales says it's working with Newcastle City Council to manage traffic at Hamilton and that many of the concerns the Greens and the community shares have been investigated. There's more information about this on the Transport New South Wales website. Vivian von Drainen, NBN News.
We're hoping that it lets people in the community see people with Down syndrome as part of the community.
To support Hunter Life Education, helping us to deliver drugs and health education to kids in the Hunter every year.
Coach Phil Stubbs took plenty of positives out of last night's performance in Parramatta.
It was certainly a nice feeling for myself, I have to say, and the staff worked extremely hard this week. We've done a little bit of soul searching. The boys have worked hard and I think we got the rewards of that to the performance.
In the opening stages, the Jets created plenty of chances in the front third, but couldn't find that finishing touch. A lapse in defence gave Tommy Urich room, and it was all he needed. But rather than wilt under pressure, the goal fired the Jets up. Playing on the right-hand side of the park, David Carney proved a handful for the Wanderers, orchestrating the equaliser. Western Sydney continued to push for the winner, but the Jets held firm and the points were shared. Fans can take heart from the performances of Carney and Flores, while debutant Nick Cowburn also impressed.
He's shown myself that, with his confidence, he's given me confidence as well to say that, he's a prospect that's got a future in front of him.
Samuel Dunn, NBN News.